Welcome to this demo on how to use the brush tool in Photoshop. Now, this is going to be an introduction to this tool. We're not going to go super in depth, but at least it will give you a starting point on how to use this tool. And later on, we're going to actually take advantage of what we just learned. So this is really basic, but it's highly important to use mask correctly later on. So I'm going to have you guys do 3 labs, okay, for this one. The first one is going to be basically to create these dots from smaller and basically with very soft, okay, edges or feather all the way up to this big dot where the hardness of it is very harsh. So that way there's no softness or feather on the edges, okay? And I'm going to show you how to change the color of your brush. So that's one lab that we're going to do. The different lab is just going to use another brush tool so you know how to change your brushes and pick different brushes for effects. Okay, so that's going to be the next one. And that's the last one is also going to be picking another one of those effects or brushes that you have available. So it's basically to get familiarized with the brush and what you can do with it. Now, it's only an introduction, so we're not going to dive really deep into all the things that you could do with brushes because you can even make your own custom brush. But for now, we're just going to use what we have available. And the one that's the most important is the first lab because it's the one that we're going to use most of the time. So I'm going to go ahead and open this lab right here. And what I want you to look at, I'm going to highlight this real quick so you can find it, is this tool right here. Okay, it looks like a paintbrush. If you can't find it, just hit B for brush and it will pop up. Okay, so you can find it really easily. And you'll see that it will basically be your brush. Let me take that away. Now, I'm going to tell you what I recommend and what works for me. This brush for me, I usually use the keyboards to adjust it because it's a lot faster. That's one thing. And also it gives you a better sense of what size you need. But I'm still going to show you where to change it in case you want to get used to it first that way and then later you learn the shortcuts. Okay. So the first thing, I'm going to go back to my move tool. Again, I just press B and I get my brush. The second step is defining how big that brush size is going to be and also how hard the edges are going to be. Okay, so if you have a lot of hardness, it's just going to be a straight line. If you have 0 hardness, it's going to be soft at the edges. So to adjust that, you're going to go all the way here on the top. Let me highlight this. So right here, okay, and you click there and it's going to open the brush panel right here that has a lot of options. The first thing that I want you to do is click on the first one on the top. It should say soft round. That's what we want right now. Okay, so the soft round. Now when you pick that, what's going to do is the hardness should go to 0. So if it's not at 0, slide it all the way to 0. Okay, so hardness on the top at 100% is basically going to look like this. Let me take the spotlight off. The wrong one. Let's go here. So it's just a circle with a straight line. Okay, that's with basically 100%. Okay, straight line. Now if I go all the way to 0, let me do it right next to it. You see, it's very soft. For what we're going to be doing in our next lab, most of the time we want to use that soft edge because you don't want to be able to tell that edge of that brush. Okay, you want some soft fading between the two things. So just keep that in mind. That's what the difference is. That's 100, that's 0. So if you know the difference, then you know how to use it. So I'm going to go back on my history here. So that was the hardness. So 0 hardness, that means very soft. So write that down. And then 100%, it has a sharp edge. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with 0. And the size is basically, that's a smaller size. And then we go here. Oh, that's too big that you can't even see it. And that's a bigger size. Okay. Now, the problem with this is that you're adjusting it here and you don't get a visual reference of what that looks like. So when I go all the way here, I don't know what that looks like. I have to actually go here and look at, oh, that's not right. And then I go here and it's like, oh, that's not right. So I'm going to show you a better trick. If you're here and you can see the size, right? Because we can see the size of our brush. If you press the right bracket key, it will get bigger. If you press the left bracket key, it will get smaller. Okay, and that's really helpful. If you don't know what the bracket keys are, those are the two that are right next to the letter P in your keyboard. Okay, so the bracket key will make it the right one bigger, and the left smaller. And I like this because then you get a visual representation of what that looks like, okay? That size, okay? So you're gonna start with the little one, a little size, okay? I don't really care what you do. And you're gonna change the color, okay? That's the first step that you have to do. If we go back to bridge, you can see that I started with green and then I went all the way to red. I don't really care what color you use as long as they're all a little bit different, because I just want to make sure that you know how to change it. So I'm going to start click, and that's my first one. Then to change the color, it's basically going to be here. So where you see the toolbar on the top, right, where you have the brush right underneath, right here, it's going to be a foreground color and then the background color. The foreground color is the color that your brush is going to be painting with. You can flip these two by clicking on this little arrow right here, or you can press X in your keyboard and it will flip between the two. But you don't have to really do that. The only thing that you have to do is double click on this top foreground square and this window will come up, okay? Once this window comes up, you just have to define what color you want. Now, there's a difference. There's two things happening here. You have this square, okay, where it shows you different gradients of that color, or white or black or gray. You have also here all across the edge. Okay, it doesn't matter what color you're in. This is pure white. It doesn't matter if I slide this up, whoop, or down. That is always going to be white, and these are all grays all the way to black. Okay, now this slider right here, that's the second part, is where you pick what color you want to pick. So if I want red, then I go to the red spectrum. Okay, and I click anywhere here. I can do here. Okay, anywhere that you find a color that you want. Okay, now so this is the way of picking the color, and then you press OK, and you'll see now that that color is right there on the foreground. So if I go here, I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, and now before I make it bigger, the next step that you have to do is to lower, raise the hardness. So I think if you do like 20 by 20, that should be okay. So let's do 20. Okay, so the first one that I did had 0 hardness. Then the second dot that I'm going to do a little bit bigger and then add more hardness. Okay, so that's what we're going to do right now. And then we go again. So you have to go back here. Now change it to a different color. Press OK. Now I have, okay, like a yellow. Now I go here and I'm going to do, instead of 20, I'm going to do 40. Okay, and then I have to make it a little bit bigger. So you can make it bigger here if you want. I don't really mind. And then you click. Okay. And then you make it even more big. Okay, let's see, it's something like that. And then you change the color again. Okay, now let's do like a green and do OK. And then, oop, I forgot something. The hardness to 60. Okay, the idea is that you keep doing dots until you get, I don't know if you noticed that, but I went here, and to go away from the screen, I just clicked the gray area here. And then do another one bigger. I don't care really what you draw here, as long as I can see different brushes with different colors and more hardness as they get bigger. Okay, so I'm going to go bigger and do, I need to change the color. So go here, do that. Now I go a little bit bigger, change the color again. Let's do a pink. And then the last one should be all the way to 100. Okay, so basically that's what we get. We get a very little one, very soft, and as we go bigger, it starts getting more and more hard, the edge. Okay, so that's your first lap. That's the first one that you want to do. And you have to make sure that you understand how this is going to work, okay? You have to make sure that you create the brush the size that you want, different colors, okay? And then you keep adding it as you go. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but on my layers, I had 2 layers. I have the green one in the background, and then I have the gray on the top. If you are on the bottom layer, you're going to be clicking, and you're not going to see it because the gray one is going to be on the top. Okay, so that is something that you guys always have to watch. Where are you clicking to paint? Okay, that's really key. So if you were here, because by default it's probably going to be on the bottom one, and you start painting, it's like it's not doing anything, it's because you're painting on the bottom one. So make sure that you go to the top one and you're painting on the layer that you want. Okay, that's very, very important. So after you do that, you're going to go ahead and save it. Okay, and then after you save it, you're going to do the next one, which is this one. Okay, and what I want you to do for that one, I'm going to go back on my history here. to the beginning. You're going to go back to the beginning so that way you can select a different brush. So I'm going to select brush. I'm going to go and close this, make this smaller, and you're going to go to the same menu. And then I want you to just experiment with a different brush, something like this, and see how it behaves. You see, I just did that. I drew. You see, I didn't see anything because I was in the wrong one. So again, we have to make sure that we are on the right layer all the way on the top. So we want to select the gray. Now if I do that, then you see it. So I just want you to play around with this. It's nothing specific that you have somebody like taking their tongue out. Let's see, what else can you do? There's one that are smudges, like this one. It only works if you have a color already. So you have to make sure that you understand, like there's some that have wet blender, like the dry media ones are the ones that you can draw with, okay? The wet ones, you know, if I draw, like nothing happened until I get to the color. It's almost like you put water on it. And then there's special effects ones that are kind of fun, like this one is dots. So I just want you to have two documents where you're playing around with some of the options that you have, okay? So that way you can see, you know, what you can do, and you can make some of them big, let's say like that, you know, and add something kind of fun and colorful, and play with color and make some like interesting design. So this one is totally up for you to have fun and see what you could do with this kind of like design. So this one is just to play around. So you have two different files that you're going to do, okay, for different brushes. So do one design and just, you know, this is a great exercise to just like play with design and color. And then you're going to do another one. So two. At the end, you're going to turn in 3 different documents. You're going to turn in one for the brush sizes with different colors. And then you're going to turn in 2 designs where you're just playing with color and, you know, and your brush and all that. So try around some of these. I just want you to play around with them and see what you can do. And there's, you know, there's nothing wrong with failing. We're just like playing around with the brushes. I think that's the best exercise to learn how to use a tool. Just play with it. Okay, so you have 2 opportunities here to play, and one where I really want to see how you change the color and the size and the hardness of your brush. Okay. So that's this lab, and if you have any questions, just let me know, and I'll see you in a little bit. Thank you very much.